For the most part, the only people who've ever seen the Titanic since that night have been scientists. Until now.
It's a very unusual business.
Ocean Gate shouldn't have been doing what it was doing.
Hi, it's me, Uncle Ricky, talking about the incident involving the party that went to view the Titanic, the famous SS Titanic that struck an iceberg and sunk over 100 years ago. Now, the vessel that they used, the Titan, was built by a company that was their specialty. They wanted to provide, undersea adventures, exotic adventures for people that could afford it. I mean, these people were paying like $200,000 plus to put themselves in basically fabricated sewer pipe and go thousands of feet under the water to view a vessel that had, for all intents and purposes, become a monument, an undersea monument. Now, I guess, you could look at it, the spirit of exploration, and, if you got the money, you can do things like this, and on and on and on. And I give, the death of anyone saddens me. And I was a submariner when I was in the Navy, and so I understand the complications and the hazards and what probably happened when this tiny tourist vehicle imploded 13,000 feet underneath the sea. The thing that gets to me, though, is this happened just for the sake of taking, basically, to most of the people on this, suicide mission, untimely catastrophe, it was just a ride in the park for them. It was like a camera safari. They had the money, and they wanted to be one of the few people that could actually get that close to the Titanic. Now, maybe you would say, well, what about the spirit of exploration and research and all of that? This was not exploration. It was not research. The Titanic, the wreck, was discovered back in the 80s. There's no research going on. The vessel was just a tube, a view tube, a vehicle to get to the Titanic. Now, I'm not saying that, if you got it like that, that perhaps you shouldn't entertain yourself, but you got to use common sense, and sometimes wealth and power erase or reduce an individual's ability to use common sense. Like, my money can get me out of anything. I'm so rich that they're, if something happens, they got to come after me. When you fool with Mother Nature, when you take yourself off of terra firma and put yourself either into the inner atmosphere or the outer atmosphere, money doesn't matter. Technology, to a certain extent, doesn't matter. Technology only matters to the extent that you can recreate an environment for you to survive long enough to get from point A to point B and back to point A again. And somewhere in this particular episode, something failed. Now, this gets me to the next point. I was in the Navy for 6 years. I was a submariner, so I understand the science. I understand the implications and the consequences that probably occurred to cause this catastrophe. And the only way I can explain it is that it's not so much that Mother Nature reached out and, raised her ugly head. It's more, and probably 100% accurate, that something man-made failed. Now, the thing that gets to me is that this is perhaps a new industry, because this vessel was designed as a tourist vehicle, much in the spirit of the submarine ride at Disney World. But see, Disney World is one thing. 13,000 feet below the surface of the North Atlantic any time of the year is entirely different. And it appears that too many shortcuts were taken in the effort to create an industry, to collect money, to prey on the spirit of exploration among the rich. I mean, we see it with, people like Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos and, that guy, Elon Musk, with the space exploration thing. These Titanic tours, same spirit, same thing. Let's make a buck off of anything we can, any way we can. But when you're dealing with so many variables, and each one of those variables leading to something that could go wrong and cause a catastrophic event like an implosion that killed 5 people, you got to stop and think about, you got to weigh the consequences against the value. And really, there was no value in this trip. There's nothing. You can't get inside of the Titanic because that's straight suicide. The vessel wasn't even designed to do that. It was basically designed to go from the mothership down to the Titanic, cruise around the Titanic, take some film, and let these people who paid $250,000 or more each just say that, hey, I was there. They're not diving. They're not going to go outside of the vessel. They're not going to swim into the Titanic. They're not going to touch it. The only thing they can say was, hey, I went down, I saw it, and it's still there. Haha, I'm one of, maybe 100 people or maybe 200 people that's going to get to see it before they can afford to see it, before time and the sea erode it into nothing. And unfortunately, they went down and the sea eroded them before the Titanic. I guess my point is, sometimes you gotta use common sense. You gotta measure the accomplishment, which in this case, the only thing they were accomplishing was an expensive tour. There was no research involved. There was no rescue involved. They were the ones that needed to be rescued in the end. The only purpose of the vehicle, the Titan, was to take them from the mothership to the Titanic and back again. And it only completed half of its mission. The military does it on a regular basis. Submarines of war don't go that deep. But the Navy does have research vessels that go that deep, but these research vessels are equipped with things that make them practical for research. It's not just to go down there and look. It's to film, grab, bottom samples, marine life. It's a purpose other than to be entertained. I guess my point is, when you got the money to pay that kind of money to be entertained, you got to be ready for the consequences that when things go wrong, your desire to be entertained can cost you your life. Much like when an idiot gets on a motorcycle for entertainment and decides to pop wheelies and, do 360s and donuts, and something goes wrong and that causes them to be killed. Same principle here. How much is your desire to be entertained worth? Is it worth your life? Is it worth you going the extra mile just to say you did it, when there's no real reward other than your own personal satisfaction in the fact that you did it? They're not going to go down in the history books. It's not like they were the first ones to discover the Titanic. They're not going to end hunger. They're not going to win a war. The only thing they can say is, I spent $200,000 or more to kill myself. Now, as far as the people that made the Titan and operated the Titan, they went as cheap as possible. They made a vessel that's supposed to go 13,000 feet under the sea and come back out of off-the-shelf parts. And then once they put it together, they paid very little attention to the breakdowns and the setbacks. The only thing that was concerning to them, because it was a capitalistic venture, was how soon can we get back in the water, get rid of this group, and get the next group. It was all about the money, and none of it. They were not concerned. They were not concerned enough. They were not overly concerned about the safety of the crew. The CEO of the company died on this run, and they were definitely not concerned about the safety of the people that went down. To operate underneath the water safely, you have to have the right components. You have to have components that are specifically designed to accomplish the task that you want to achieve. And 13,000 feet beneath the ocean, because of the pressure of water on anything at that depth, is, I heard one commentator say, it was like having the Empire State Building made of lead placed on your chest. And I guess that's an accurate description. Implosion, these people probably didn't feel anything, but that doesn't erase the fact that they're still dead, and the only reason they're dead is because they desired to do something because they had the money to do it, because they wanted to say that they were among the few people that did it. And what they did was going to accomplish nothing but satisfy their own ego. I'm going to wrap this up, and I guess the best way you can describe the whole situation is that it was one of those things where they say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, or F around and find out. RIP to the individuals that died, but the next group that wants to do this for a business, you got to think more about safety. And the people that want to do this just because they had the money, you should do your research and think about what you do before you do it. Well, that's it from me, from Uncle Ricky's house. As always, man, people, God bless and peace out from Uncle Ricky at Uncle Ricky's house. Well, that's the end of another episode of Uncle Ricky. Hey, look, if you like what you saw and you enjoyed it, you learned something, look, help me keep doing this. And I'm not asking for your money. All you got to do is use your finger, and don't take that the wrong way. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. Most of all, hit the like button, hit the share button. Type a few words. Let the old man know how you're feeling. I'll get back to you. But let's help Uncle Ricky's house keep growing and going. Thank you, and as always, peace out and God bless.